Good morning. Welcome to the Protagonist Pub. My name is Tammy, and this is where characters gather. It is a cloudy, gray, and somewhat stormy Monday. And last week was a very busy week, but it was a good reading week. I say that I only read 2 books, but it's quality rather than quantity. And I read 2 very superb books this week. So first, let's talk about my audiobook. That was Mastering the French Art of Murder by Colleen. It is the first book in the American in Paris series, and it was an audiobook from library, and I loved it. The second book is coming out later this month, at the end of April, and I'm here for it. So the setup is it is either late 1948 or early 1949. It is clearly winter in Paris. Our heroine is Tabitha, and she is an American who was a Rosie the Riveter in Detroit during the war, and she has found herself at loose ends in post-World War I America, and so she has moved to Paris to spend some time with her grandfather and has moved in with him. And her neighbor across the street is her very good friend, who she met in Paris, Julia Child. And Julia is fairly recently married. Julia's little sister Dort lives with them as well. And Tabitha agrees to help Dort at the theater where she's working. Dort is famous for her parties at Julia's apartment, and this is the setup for the cozy mystery that follows. It is fabulous. It is filled with excellent French speaking by the narrator. The narrator does excellent voices. There is great tension. There is great character depth. There is a great cozy mystery that is tightly woven. There are no gaping plot holes. There are characters you want to return to. I loved everything about this. And I don't listen to audiobooks faster than, normal reading speed, listening speed. And I savored every moment of that 9.5 hours because that book was fabulous. Seriously, I cannot wait to read more by her. I cannot wait to listen to those books. I cannot wait to pick up the second book when it releases at the end of April. It was truly just an enjoyable listen. And honestly, you can't ask for more than an enjoyable listen. Especially when there's, workmen on the roof or they're out front doing stuff, and reading is difficult under those circumstances. And so, great book in your ears solves all those problems. So if you're hesitant about a new mystery author, I can highly recommend Colleen Coble, or I can recommend Colleen Coble as well, but in this case, Colleen Cambridge. It was fabulous. It truly was fabulous. Now let's talk about the physical book I read this week. And if you follow me on Instagram, you've seen me gushing about this. This is The Princess of Ireland by Edward Rutherford. It is the first book in the Dublin Saga duology, and oh my, this is beautiful historical fiction. As you know, I read a lot of historical fiction, and a lot of it is nobility, upper crust centered, because those are the people that make it into the history books. And those are the names we know, and it's easier to connect, and it's easier to connect to big events. This is not that. This is Irish historical fiction. This book opens up in, double check, I want to say 1450. Yeah, it's 1450. Let me just look at the table of contents. It'll tell me. Won't it? No, it won't. 1430. I'm sorry. 1430. And it concludes in 1533, 1538. So we go from post-Roman, but still truly pagan, Celtic, tribal Ireland, to Ireland governed, or so they think, by the English under Henry VIII. And we see that transformation through a continual narrative that follows one genetic line through births and marriages throughout history. Is it a continuous story? Nope. There are big time gaps between some of those narratives, but there's always a tie back to the previous characters, and it is amazing. It is truly amazing. There were certain points in which I was just flabbergasted and taken aback by the beauty and breadth of this novel. The author does a very good job about. So Rutherford does an excellent job as he goes from focal point in history to focal point in history as the narrative moves along, in doing a page and a half blurb of history, summarization of actual events before he goes back into the fictional narrative. And that summarization is not immersive breaking. That's how well it is written. And there is a line in here that so beautifully encapsulates Irish history from where the previous section ends, which is 1450, 1470-ish time frame, or not 450, 470 AD. So we're starting the next chapter, and the next segment of history is roughly 500 years later, and the opening line to that chapter is this: the invasion that was to bring 8 centuries of grief to Ireland began on a sunny autumn day in the year of our Lord, 1167. It consisted of 3 ships which arrived at the small southern port of Wexford. That is just an amazingly true and concise statement that summarizes a huge swath of history and sets the scene for, the second half of the book, in essence. And it was beautiful. Every weaving of a story was immersive, filled with historical accuracy and details, but it wasn't immersive breaking. You could lose yourself in the history and the narrative. And it's going to be one of my He's going to be one of my favorite authors of the year. I can tell you that right now. I've told Dave I'm buying all of his back catalog. I'm going to read it all. I'm going to enjoy it and immerse myself in it and just lose myself in the beauty that is his writing. I made a list of some of the big names from history that appear in this book. Brian Boru, who is the first High King of Ireland that united the clans. St. Patrick, St. Kevin, Thomas Becket, Henry II, Henry VIII, Strongbow, Catherine of Aragon is mentioned, Pope Adrian, who is the only English pope to date, is mentioned. It is filled with historical characters, but they aren't the focal point. The focal point is truly how the larger political stage affects everyday people in Dublin and in the surrounding communities, and how there are certain themes that just run through history and you can see them. It's truly masterful. And he writes more than Irish fiction. He has a book on Paris. As you know, London is on my Dave list for 2024. There's a Russia book. He has there's a New York book. So he has a wide variety of historical periods and subject matters to choose from. And I cannot wait. I literally am just so in love with his writing style. It is amazing to me just how beautiful it was. It is an easy recommendation. It really is. If you want to learn something about Irish history, but you don't want to pick up a textbook, pick up Edward Rutherford. If you want to learn about, London history and don't want to pick up a textbook, pick up Rutherford. Easy. It really is an easy recommendation. So that is all I read this week. I looked at my stats on Storygraph when I finished Princes of Ireland this weekend, and as of Sunday, I have finished 25 books, and it's like 11,600 and some odd pages. So I've read a lot of pages. I haven't necessarily read a lot of books. I'm fine with that. 2 of those are audiobooks. I'm pleased with my reading year. Am I daunted by my April pile, which you haven't even seen that video yet? Oh, not gonna lie, I'm daunted. But that's okay. I like the challenge. So what am I reading this week? I'm currently listening to The Frozen River. Picture is right here. I am not sure how I feel about it yet. I'm hour or two in, and I'm sort of on the fence. I've heard it's great, but it hasn't gripped me so far, so we'll see. What does have me firmly interested is Leviathan Wakes, which is the first book in the Expanse series. It's another Dave book. I managed to read a little bit of it yesterday. I'm now on chapter 4. So, I'm very much looking forward to reading that this week. We'll see if I get it read before the end of the week. Dave's birthday is this week. They have to come back and do some more work on the roof on Friday. And then hopefully it will be done. Fingers crossed. So, we shall see what kind of week I have. Did you read anything good last week? If you did, leave a comment down below, like and subscribe, and I will see you here next week at the Protagonist Pub.